treatments, and Serena gave me a collage that had lots of kind of, I don't know what I would call it, old stuff on it, like old book page diagrams, collages, old bingo cards, and all this kind of funny stuff. So I took the opportunity to make a piece about this TED Talk that I saw. This is totally random. So this TED Talk that I saw about how mice navigate and understand where they are. And the medical research I was doing was all about how people balance. So I was thinking about like location and balance and like just understanding where you are. And I made this piece in response to the brain waves of mice when they're trying to figure out where they are. Mm-hmm. And Serena had told me that a lot of her work is this like response to the city and like her surroundings, and so I thought it was interesting that it was like a collage about her surroundings, and then I was like this mouse that was like trying to figure out where it was. So that's what I made. And it was a collage that I painted over with acrylic paint and ink.
And my partner was Leah. And I usually work very small with collage and painting with meticulous detail. So you can imagine my dismay when you brought me a 5 by 4 foot piece of paper with painting on it. I was like, what am I going to do with this huge thing? And then my second thought was, I wish I could just finish my painting, or my collage, even though I carried it around for 7 years unfinished. But, so anyway, she had these vertical kind of film strips of profiles of heads and silhouettes and different things going on. And I too use silhouettes as an anchor form in some of my paintings. So each one of these spirals is from one of the film strips that I cut out and then fanned. And then changed the palette to the blues and blacks that I'm into right now. And I think my other goal was to have my style in it, but her hand still be able to see her line work. So a lot of the line work and the figurative work is from the original painting. So I think it kind of shows both of us. Mm-hmm.
And I originally received a oak cabinet door that Maureen had painted, and there's some partial words collaged on it. And we actually had a long conversation when we traded, and we ended up spending more time talking about ourselves, I think, than actual art. And so what inspired me from the conversation was sort of relationships with families and children, and what I then, after receiving this, I was trying to work in needlework and samplers, and I explored a lot of different historical stitches and types of needlework. And I had originally thought I would do cut work, and so cut work, or open work, if you don't know it, it's taking a thread and then stitching very carefully so you can see underneath what's going on. And then I moved into trying to do an interpretation of a needlework that I sort of collect, which is needleworks for mothers and grandmothers that end up in Goodwill and yard sales, where they have all these very lovely sayings and dedications to people, and they just sort of end up abandoned. And a lot of sort of prayers that I could just imagine hanging over some children's bed for, how many years, and every night you go to sleep, you stare at it. So I pulled out a line from a children's prayer and embroidered it on it, and I was trying to mimic, to some degree, what she was doing with her words that were underneath. And I also wanted to really keep an openness to it, so you could see the work that she had done with the painting and the collage underneath, and because I just didn't want to completely cover it up.
I got all these weird, like, shapes, like pieces of foam, and an old piece that she had in a previous life. She had shown some fashion, then some sort of lock for a chemical cabinet and a bunch of other things. And like I normally do is I try to create museums or galleries, or I try to create the architecture around it. That's basically what I did. I created a museum to those pieces that I was given. And she at one time told me that she always wanted to start a museum in some, I don't know what fashion. I can't remember exactly the extent to what she wanted to create, but so I created a museum to those objects. That's basically what it ended up being.
And then I got a chance to go see Michael's basement, which is just full. It's like an archive of these architectural models that he does.
It's so great.
But he's like, it was creepy. No, it was great. It was. I really enjoyed myself. And I love museums. I'd like to make a museum on a really big scale. And what Michael's doing is on a very small scale. So I was really excited to work with him. And then what he gave me was essentially just the
Box.
just the box with the little staircases, and then this window cut out, but it was shut back up. So I took a cue from that, and Michael had originally gone to architecture school, so I think in some ways he struggled a little bit with, I'm just making models, that's all I want to do. I don't really want to take it into full architecture. So in some ways I felt like empowering him in that way, and making it an object that's just meant to be this, which is why I put this tag on, and then also just let the cord go, instead of trying to conceal the fact that it's a model for something bigger. I was like, no, this is the object. And then in some other ways, it was almost an opportunity to give a three-dimensional critique of how it, like, things that you can maybe improve on. So I added like all the architectural details, which you've done.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because now I can critique it.
I know. So, anyways, it was. I think.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a high five. I think we did good.
Well, I was sitting at the intro meeting. Becky was not here, and Becky Tesch was listing off who was there, and I said to Melissa Dorn Richards, who I was sitting, oh my God, they're probably going to give me Becky Borman because she's so good, and I'm not. And then Becky Tesch goes, Sara Risley and Becky Borman. And so this ended up really being, for me, and I think I got the best out of this deal, kind of an amazing thing. We had to make a point to meet because she missed meeting, exchange our pictures, talk about what we were thinking, and really just had a lot of coffee and talked about it, all of you people. At Altera, remember that thing?
Yep.
And I'm a new painter, and I tend to just rip into something and do whatever comes out of my arm or my brush or whatever. And so I really felt more responsible to this because I felt I really had to look at what she had and appreciate what was there to try and not just cover it up with a bunch of paint from my house. So I looked at it for a long time, which for me was probably the biggest lesson, is to sit and wait, because I don't do that. And the thing that kept striking me was the horizon line, because I rarely have any kind of line in what I do. So I worked from there, and at the middle critique, someone flipped it and said it looked better this way, and I said, okay, and then I went home and reworked it, and that's what this ended up. And we met a couple times and emailed back and forth what we're doing, what do you think, what do you think? And I think, wait, I'll shut up.
Well, and I think that's a good point. We really stayed in touch a lot during this process and went back and forth during the course of like all the tweaks we did. And it's interesting, you know, from a painter's background, what I do mostly in my studio work is kind of contemporary landscape, abstract landscape. I usually work in oil, like with a painting knife, so I'm used to like thick surfaces and kind of playing with the paint as a medium. And so Sara gave me this beautiful abstract. You can kind of see snippets of it poking through here, really bright, vibrant colors. And I'm drawn to bright, vibrant colors, but these were even more vibrant than I was used to. But
Nothing like her personality.
But like, I mean, these really, so it was, you know, for a while I played with like orientation and what to do to it. Of course I brought a landscape into it, but then I was also playing with the medium itself. It kind of got me back into acrylics again, which was a great reintroduction to me for, I mean, that was really one of the benefits of the process, was kind of learning from Sara, and then also it's certainly her palette informed this piece, and then also the acrylics, the freedom of process. So I played with the acrylics a bit. You know, I started with the landscape, which was comfortable for me, but then I got into playing with the medium, and I was dripping and pouring and doing all kinds of other things on the surface. So, and then going back and seeing what she did, it's just kind of amazing how we came from opposite ends and somehow met again in the middle during this process. So that's what I think I took away from this, and also the opportunity to get to know Sara. So.